So this is about an article I found just a few days ago in the January 2026 issue of the Journal of the American Medical Association. So this isn't the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association, this is the human side, but it's all the same modern Western medicine, whether it's for people or for pets. This article is put in the magazine as a research letter, which is like a letter to the editor when you want something in the magazine, but you don't want it to be peer reviewed or it's not officially a research paper. So even though this one's not officially a research paper, it does have the sections right here on the page of methods, results, and discussion. And this is one of the top medical journals in the nation, so you have some prestige by being printed in here. And even though it's not an official peer-reviewed article, that doesn't matter because any of the medical doctor peers of these people would agree with it anyway, so it doesn't matter. So what I want to talk about with it though is I want to point out the tone and the leading nature of this article. Even though it's listed as a letter, it is an article. And the tone and the way it's written is leading, the same way a lawyer in a courtroom would try to lead a witness to get them to come to some desired conclusion instead of letting them just form their own answers organically or from scratch, okay? So the article is titled, Trends in County Level Childhood Vaccination Exemptions in the U.S. And they immediately point out that more parents are seeking exemption letters to exclude their children from vaccine injections. Okay, fine. The article points out that childhood vaccination rates have been declining for several years. And that's true, that's fine. But it follows that statement with the qualifier of, which is posing the risk that vaccine-preventable infectious diseases will resurge. That's early, but we're going to hear that 2 more times in this article. So let me point out right now, the text of this article would fit on 1 page if you took away the graphs and stuff like that. So it's a pretty short article, but they're going to say the above phrase 2 more times, 3 times in the whole article. They're going to go on to follow it with a slightly different version, which may contribute to resurgence of vaccine-preventable diseases. So that's 3 times they say the same thing in this 1 paper. So here's my point, okay? Although they may be correct that this may happen, they intentionally are leading us to the fear-based conclusion that increased vaccine exemptions and fewer children getting all their vaccines is going to cause a resurgence of infectious diseases. But what they do not provide is some balance, such as this decline in vaccinations may or may not cause a resurgence in diseases. Or they could be honest and say, or be sincere and say, we don't know what effect this decrease in vaccinations will have on infectious diseases. If you know anything about me, you know that I'm going to argue that these chemical injections definitely cause damage to the immune system and are increasing the risk of disease in that manner. And the diseases aren't really infectious anyway because illness is based on the environment and the terrain, what you eat, what you drink, what you breathe, what's in your body, like chemical injections, etc. That makes this article in the Journal of the American Medical Association basically a propaganda tool. And that's fitting because plenty of people like me already know that those top medical journals are nothing more than big pharmaceutical propaganda tools. The problem is your pediatrician and your veterinarian see these journal articles as gospel, as truth. That's where the problem lies. That's how propaganda works. And the last little thing I want to say to tie this all together is, I'll usually say in my videos that it's not your veterinarian's fault that they are pushing vaccines, or your pediatrician's fault even. They don't know any better. They're just doing what they were taught. But in the case of this article, they openly cite potential conflicts of interest among the authors, which is what you're supposed to do at the end of any research article. But they don't usually do it. They're not usually open about it. These guys are open about it, so I commend them for that. But one of the authors of the 6 or so does receive grants from Pfizer, which is a pharmaceutical company that makes vaccines. Another one is a co-inventor of a COVID-19 vaccine that, quote, is serving several companies committed to advancing vaccines for low and middle income countries. And that may sound like a great thing, but their goal is to push and promote vaccines. And the third one receives fees from the World Health Organization, and the WHO is all about everybody being vaccinated and the one world order and everybody having mandates and rules and stuff like that. So naturally, these authors are going to want to use the fear-based language that leads you to their conclusion to not only encourage more vaccinations, but to also create a division by using fear to turn some of you against others who choose not to inject these man-made chemicals into their children. So that's just a different perspective on looking at this article, and it's what's out there. Those of you who aren't in the medical profession, you don't know that the Journal of the American Medical Association and the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association are putting out these articles to basically kind of coach and encourage veterinarians to push back on people who don't want these chemical injections injected into their children and pets. Thanks.